Hello, everyone. This is James with your Recovery Devon Daily for, what is it, Monday the 27th of April. I think we're in our fifth week now of Recovery Devon Dailies, and I do hope you're enjoying them. So today I'm going to talk about a couple of Recovery Devon publications. Now, many of you who've been with Recovery Devon for a long time will be aware of these, but we've acquired a number of new members and supporters and followers on Facebook over recent weeks. So I wanted to reintroduce them and show you how you can get yourself a copy. What better to read some recovery stories in this time of lockdown? So the first book I have here is this one, which is Beyond the Storms. Now, Beyond the Storms is, as it says, reflections on personal recovery, and contains a number of recovery stories and poems and beautiful artwork as well. And it all comes bound, and Maisie's getting in on the action here. It all comes beautifully bound and in a quality booklet. You know, we felt there was something about the quality of the book that spoke to the value that we placed on these stories, and of course the people who've contributed them. Maisie's certainly getting in on the action here. So this is Beyond the Storms. A little bit about its history. I mean, it's over 10 years old now, Beyond the Storms, but still continues to be as popular as ever. It was edited and compiled by Lyndon Lynn, who was my predecessor as lead at Recovery Devon, and both Laurie Davison and Glenn Roberts, who are the co-founders of Recovery Devon, had a big hand in its publication as well. So although it's over 10 years old, it's been reprinted at least 3 times, and there are literally thousands of copies of them around. You may have come across them in waiting rooms or seen a friend's copy. And it was also based on a book by Julie Librich called A Gift of Stories. I'm going to put a link to Julie Librich's book in the comments here as well, so you'll be able to get a copy of Julie's book if you wish. So that's where the inspiration for Beyond the Storms came from. And a little bit about the book itself. As the name suggests, it's recovery stories that follow, I suppose, quite a familiar trajectory in terms of stories about recovery, where people go along. They maybe hit some rocky times in either childhood or often early adulthood, and they become very unwell, and they go through a period of struggling with their mental health, but then they reach a place beyond, and can reflect and look back at those times and then draw from them some strength often. So it gives a sense of going through the storms but reaching that place beyond, and that's what many of these stories follow, that kind of familiar trajectory of recovery stories. Now, moving on to our second book, which is far more recent. So Riding the Storms was published, it was towards the end of last year, and Riding the Storms talks about embracing the pain of mental suffering. Suffering can be a tricky word in mental health. Some people don't feel it fits, other people feel it definitely does fit. So Riding the Storms, this book owes a great deal to Emily. Emily is the lady who brought this book together by compiling the stories, and Emily writes a little piece in the front about how she came across the stories and how what they mean to her. And we also have a welcome from Glenn Roberts as well. So Glenn talks about the books. So Emily Davey and Glenn Roberts played a big part in this, as did Judith Beelam as well, who has helped Recovery Devon enormously over the years. So Riding the Storms. And also I should mention that both books only came about with a great deal of support from Devon Partnership NHS Trust as well, who are our primary funders. So let's talk a little bit about Riding the Storms. It's another compilation of both recovery stories, prose, poetry, and again, fantastic artwork. All the artwork in this is original. It's all come from the contributors, and it's a smaller book, so it's a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's more digestible. I'd say that you probably want to take Riding the Storms in small chunks, because as the name suggests, this book is about riding those storms. So this is often people who don't quite reach that place beyond, who are going through, suffering with their mental health day to day, and often every day is a struggle. So these stories are far grittier, far more sometimes painful to read as well, and contain some strong subjects in there as well. So Riding the Storms has a slightly different emphasis to Beyond the Storms. It's also a book that we felt needed to be shared because sometimes you don't very often hear from the people who are struggling day to day. Often their voices go unheard, partly because a lot of people want to hear from the people who are deemed to have been a success in terms of their mental health. So we hear a lot about people who are doing well following a period of mental illness, but we don't often hear from people who struggle. So this is Riding the Storms. We crowdfunded Riding the Storms, and again we had great deal of support from Devon Partnership Trust and many others who contributed to helping make it happen. We also should mention the Devon Recovery Learning Community. It was one of their courses on sharing your stories that led to the idea for it being put into a book. So there you have it. That's Beyond the Storms, over 10 years old, but still as relevant today as ever. And actually in the back of Beyond the Storms, you'll find Anne Lee, who was a researcher, drew some of the themes from the book as well. So you'll be able to explore some of those themes. And then Riding the Storms, a grittier version of recovery, but equally as valid. Now, both of these books are available for free. All we ask is for a cost to cover postage. It's for Riding the Storms, we ask for £2.25 and we'll send you a copy in the post. And for Beyond the Storms, because it's slightly bigger and heavier, it's £2.75. And I'll share a link to a page on our Recovery Devon website where you can enter your name and details, pay for the postage, and we'll put those books in the post. Bear in mind it's not quite Amazon Prime next day delivery. It may take a day or two, but bear with us and we'll get those books to you, and you can either be inspired or entertained or just enjoy the artwork and knowing that other people have gone through similar things. I think one of the things I always get from reading recovery stories is knowing that I'm not alone, knowing that other people have been through sometimes far greater struggles than me and have come through the other side. And one thing I'm always reassured by is one of those quotes that says, it's a bit like one of those internet memes, but it says, your record at getting through difficult times is 100% so far, and I always find that quite comforting. So there are the two books, Beyond the Storms and Riding the Storms. We're actually thinking of ideas for another book. We're wondering about carers and how they may want a book to tell their stories, which are often not only worth telling, but give great insight into what carers go through when caring for a loved one or a friend or a family member who's going through difficult times. And yes, so any ideas, we'll take that on board, and we'll look at publishing a book. We're also in the current situation thinking of a story or a book of collections from people who have written about how they've experienced lockdown. So we're exploring that with Caroline from the Devon Recovery Learning Community as to how we may capture some of those thoughts and feelings and emotions that people have gone through under lockdown. Okay, so this is James signing off. This has been your Recovery Devon Daily. As I mentioned, we're in 5 weeks now. We're very keen to hear from you if you have ideas for Recovery Devon Dailies. Even if you'd just like to say that you're enjoying them or finding them interesting, we'd love to hear from you. So either message us on Facebook or put something in the comments. And thank you very much for watching so far. Okay, thank you. Bye.